Well, Debbie and I spent a lot of time over the years helping couples uh, that were having a tough time in their marriage. About 90%, and this is fairly common knowledge, but about 90% of marriages that end in divorce would say that it was because their communication skills were poor or bad or whatever. And I think there's truth to that, but it doesn't go far enough. Uh, we don't really learn good communication skills most of the time, and we really don't know how to pick up those skills and get on with them. We learn whatever we learned in childhood and teenage years, and we kind of stay with that. And so you come into your marriage, and I know it sounds a little ridiculous or uh, old fashioned, but you're not trained to get married. You're really not sure what you're supposed to do in most cases. Debbie and I knew each other for 3 weeks before we got married, and we weren't really trained for all that and didn't understand what was going to happen. So we ended up learning from that experience in our lives, she and I, and we applied a lot of that to young couples, middle-aged couples, older couples, uh, and it was dozens and dozens of them over the years. And some of them were able to help them quite a bit, and some we just couldn't manage to get them over the hurdle. But anyway, I I want people to be able to have certain um, skills, and I really like to see people succeed at those communication skills. But there's some other things, and it's a theory. It's called attachment theory, which sort of precede those communication skills. And it's the way you were trained to grow up to be dependent, independent, codependent, non dependent. And that theory, that there's a couple of theories actually, and theories are theories. It's awful hard to prove them all the time, especially in social theories or relational theories. But this theory I like a lot because I was able to use it and it helped me with a lot of the couples that we were talking with and help them to get them to slow down a little bit, take a look at themselves and how they were talking to each other. And, there's a lot of relationships that you can kind of take them or leave them. You can kind of toss them aside. And that's not healthy either. But this can help with some of those relationships. But there are other relationships that are more core, more central. Your family, your children, your parents, your grandparents, your cousins, but especially your husband and wife, your spousal relationships. Those are those are primary and important, and they make up the core uh, of much of your life. So they need to be figured out really well. And so I wanted to talk about attachment theory just a little bit in the hopes that it'll help some people who are struggling with their relationships, to be honest. A couple million copies of this one. It's about 15 years old. What was it called? Attached. The New Science of Adult Attachment, How It Can Help You Find and Keep Love. And it starts out, some of the early chapters, dependency is not a bad word. Decoding relationship behavior is the first part of the book, and that's pretty important. And really what that is how your parents raised you. You got your behavior, most of it, from your parents and your friends too, some. But your parents had an outsized, large influence on you. And take my parents, for instance. In those days, 50 plus years ago, they were probably considered really good parents by their peers, by the people around them. And I didn't know any better to rate them, whether they were good, bad, or indifferent. But the way society was back then, if they put a roof over your head, if they fed you, if they gave you a little bit of money, or helped you, accomplish some things. And my parents did all that in spades. They did very well at all that. But they left me alone a lot too. And so it's kind of a secretive type of abandonment. You don't really come out and say, "Oh, my parents abandoned me," but in a couple of ways they really did. beyond those basic things, they really didn't know what to do with me. Now, my father did get me involved in hobbies and crafts and other things, so he was successful there. But by the time I was 17, 18, I think he must have thought of me as a delinquent, and he was happy to get me off into the Army. So he kind of gave up on me after a while. And that's just the way it was. This isn't a crying session about my parents. I loved them and respected them. But we grow up with a certain set of concepts about who we are, largely based on how they treated us and how they affected us. And so this attachment theory is it's a psychological framework to help you understand the bonds that you form, how you bond, how you glue to people, or how you attach to people, or how you relate to people. And some of those bonds are too much, and some of them aren't enough. Some of them use too much glue, and some of them don't use enough glue. And this attachment theory, which I'll give you here in a second, the 4 primary attachment styles. I'm going to read them off of my Kindle here on my computer. The first one is secure. You develop a consistent, emotional, responsive kind of caregiving. And they're comfortable with intimacy, trust, communication, expressing emotions well into your adulthood and before. And then there's the anxious, preoccupied, which I had quite a bit of that. Stems from inconsistent care, sometimes nurturing, sometimes dismissive, sometimes distracted. Adults with that style often crave high levels of intimacy, but are plagued by a constant fear of abandonment and rejection. Probably about 20% of people have that style of fear of abandonment, fear of being let go or pushed to the wayside. And they do crave high levels of intimacy because you didn't get much of it when you were young. Dismissive avoidant is the third one, often formed when caregivers are emotionally unavailable or discourage a child's expression of feelings. It's like you're put down, you're pushed away, you're told you're not really doing much or you're not much good. Adults with this style desire closeness but deeply fear it, as if it's never going to happen, as if it's unobtainable. And so they kind of give up. They kind of decide, well, if I'm never going to have it, why should I even try to get it? And that's probably another 20, sometimes 25% of people, from what I've read, live with that kind of avoidance, dismissive kind of way of looking at their relationships. And then about 2 to 5%, somewhere in there, kind of combine those two, the dismissive avoidant and the anxious preoccupied. And that's called fearful avoidant or disorganized. And that's probably, honestly, the toughest of all 4 of the 3. Develops from chaotic, frightening, and abusive environments where the caregiver is both the source of fear and the only source of comfort. Now you can imagine, scenarios where this is true. You can pick it up for yourself. Adults with this style desire closeness but deeply fear it, leading to unpredictable, tumultuous relationships. This is the kind of stuff that we used to help people learn to talk to themselves about which one of these they came out of and the foundation that was laid for their own relational styles. And then they can learn how they are using their style in their relationship, in most cases their marriage. And then they can learn how to address it, face it, talk about it, deal with it, and maybe come away more secure, more comfortable in who they're relating to in their spousal relationship, that their fears start to diminish and their over-attachment style starts to diminish, and their worry about if they're going to be abandoned can start to diminish. And so this was one of the most helpful relational tools that we were able to use over the years. And I think it's a great source of comfort to a lot of people. So I don't know how many books there are on attachment theory. But anyway, I recommend this one. It's very good. It's got a lot of good stuff in it about how to change, how to make some adjustments, and how to change your life in a way that you won't spend the rest of your life trying to, overcompensate or cling on to other people, or you won't spend the rest of your life trying to, keep a distance from them and not really allow yourself to be vulnerable anymore. And I see quite a few people that still could use a lot of this theory and turn it into practical relational advice and courage. While our earliest relationships build the foundation of our attachment styles, they are not permanent locks. I'm quoting something I found on the internet. With self-awareness, positive relationships, and therapy, adults can actively work toward a earned, secure attachment style over time. Anyway, you can explore some of these things, and you can really improve your relationships, particularly the very close and intimate ones that you have or want to have. Anyway, hope that helps. Hope you're having a great weekend. It's Memorial Day weekend, and our family is very veteran-centric over the years, and we're thinking about a lot of those things that veterans do, especially the loss of so many beautiful people and beautiful veterans, beautiful Americans, and the courage and the hope and the patriotism of so many that have gone before us. So I can't say happy Memorial Day. It's not quite the right thing, but I hope you have a blessed Memorial Day weekend. We'll see you later.